Chapter 26, The Cause of Estrangement Between Daksa and Shiva. Brahma said, formerly, a great sacrifice was performed by the sages and noble souls who assembled at Prayaga. Siddhas, Sanaka, and others, the celestial sages, Devas with Prajapatis and men of perfect knowledge who had realized the Brahman attended the function. I too attended the same along with my followers. All the Agamas and Nigamas in brilliant embodied forms were present with me. The assembly was variegated and of diverse character. They conducted discussions on epistemology from different sacred texts with great festivities. O sage, in the meantime, Lord Shiva, accompanied by his attendants and Sati came there, the Lord conferring benefit on the three worlds and affording them protection. On seeing the Lord, Devas, Siddhas, and sages bowed to and eulogized him with great devotion. I too joined them. At the bidding of Shiva they sat in their respective places. They were excessively delighted on seeing the Lord. They explained to him the various activities they were engaged in. In the meantime, the Lord Daksha, the Lord of Prajapatis, came there delighted by shedding luster everywhere in the course of a casual visit. After saluting me, Daksha sat there with my consent. Daksha, the Lord of the universe, was a bit arrogant though worthy of honor, as he had no deep insight into reality. Daksa, of great splendor, was honored by the humble celestial sages with laudatory songs, obeisance, and the joining of palms in great reverence. But Lord Shiva, who indulges in diverse sports, sat firmly and did not bow to him. Naturally, the Lord who is the cause of protection is independent. Seeing Shiva not bowing to him, my son became displeased. Daksa, the patriarch, was furious with Shiva. Haughty and devoid of perfect knowledge, Daksha looked cruelly at Shiva and spoke aloud within the hearing of all present. Daksa said, "All these Suras and Asuras, Brahmins, and sages bow to me. How is it that this gentleman who is always surrounded by goblins and ghosts behaves like a wicked man? How is it that this shameless frequenter of cremation grounds does not bow to me now? He is devoid of rites. He has cast off religious practices. He is surrounded by spirits and ghosts. He is elated and he spoils good policies and conventions. Heretics, wicked persons, who behave arrogantly on seeing a Brahmin and despise him are on a par with one another. Besides, this person is always engrossed in the love of his wife. Hence I am going to curse him." Brahma said. After saying thus, the furious rogue spoke to Shiva thus. Daksa said, "May all these Brahmins and Devas listen. May all of you deem him worthy of being killed by me. Let not this Shiva, a resident of cremation grounds, lacking in nobility o birth and pedigree, expelled by me from sacrifices, an outcast and ugly shaped, obtain his share along with the Devas." Brahma said, on hearing these words of Daksha, Bhairgu and others reproached Shiva. After duly saluting Shiva along with the Devas, Nandan, the attendant of Shiva who had heard the words of Daksha, was very furious and rolled his eyes. With an intention to curse him, he immediately spoke to Daksha. Nandisvara said, "O foolish Daksa, of roguish and wicked intention, how is it that you have expelled my Lord Shiva from sacrifice? How is it that you cursed him whose thought makes all sacrifices fruitful and all sacred places holy? O Daksha, of wicked intentions, in vain did you curse him by your inconsiderate rashness as a Brahmin. The great Lord Shiva, who is free from defects, has in vain been ridiculed by you. O vile Brahmin, how is it that you cursed Shiva the great Lord, by whom this universe is created, sustained, and destroyed in the end? Censured and rebuked thus by Nandan, Daksha the patriarch, who was still furious, cursed Nandan. To Daksha said, "You all, the attendants of Shiva, are expelled from Vedic rites. You will be abandoned by the followers of the Vedic path as well as by great sages. You all will be confirmed heretics, out of the conventions of society. You will indulge in drinking wine. Matted hair, ashes, and bones will be your embellishments." Bhargu is one of the Prajapatis and great sages and is regarded as the founder of the race of the Bhargas or Bhargavas, in which Jamadagni and Parasurama were born. Brahma said. Thus Shiva's attendants were cursed by Daksha. On hearing that, Nandan, the favorite of Shiva, became furious. Nandan, the brilliant son of Sailata and favorite of Shiva, spoke immediately to Daksha, who was excessively roguish and haughty. Nandisvara said, "O roguish wicked Daksha, in vain did you curse Shiva's attendants, you who do not know Shiva's principles. You have exercised your indiscreet rashness on being a Brahmin. The great Lord Shiva is ridiculed by the evil-minded fools Bhargu and others, apparently due to their egotism in being Brahmins. With the power of Shiva, backing me, I now heap curses on these Brahmins here who are against Shiva and hence wicked like you. You are engaged in discussing Vedas, but you will be ignorant of Vedic principles. May these Brahmins prattle that there is nothing else. May these Brahmins indulging in lust, heavenly pleasures, anger, covetousness, and pride be shameless beggars. These Brahmins will be officiating in the sacrifices of Sudras, following the Vedic path. They will be perpetually poor and eager to receive monetary gifts. Due to their acceptance of monetary gifts from undeserving persons, they will fall into hell. O Daksha, some of them will become Brahmanical Rakshasas. Brahma, who rivals with Lord Shiva, considering him on a par with ordinary devas and who has evil intentions too, will become averse to the true principles of Shiva cult. Daksha will become goat-faced ere long. He will be indulging in vulgar worldly lustful pleasures, and evil strategies. He will be laying down rules for rituals and perpetually discussing Vedic passages. His bright pleasing face will disappear. He will become individual soul strayed from his ultimate goal. He will fall from his holy rites and indulge in wicked deeds. When the Brahmins were cursed by the furious Nandan and Shiva was cursed by Daksha, there was a great hue and cry. On hearing that, I, the creator of the Vedas and the knower of the principles of Shiva, rebuked him frequently, and also the Brahmins by Tergu and others. On hearing the words of Nandan, the Lord Sadashiva laughed and spoke sweetly to him, enlightening him further. Sadashiva said, O Nandan of great intellect, listen. Do not get angry. You have cursed the Brahmins in vain, erroneously thinking that I have been cursed. Vedas are in the form of syllables of verses and hymns. The self is established in the Sukta, whomsoever it may belong to. Hence do not angrily curse the knowers of the self. The Vedas shall not be cursed by anyone, not even by the evil-minded. I have not been cursed now. You please understand the factual position. O intelligent one, be calm, enlighten Sanaka and others. I am the sacrifice, the sacrificial rite, the ancillary adjuncts of the sacrifice, the self of sacrifice and one engrossed in sacrifice. I am out of sacrifice too. Who is this? Who are you? Who are these? In reality I am all. Consider everything in this light. In vain did you curse the Brahmins. Extracting the fundamental basis of the construction of the universe through the knowledge of reality, be enlightened and self-assured, O intelligent one. Be free from anger and other emotions. Brahma said, thus exhorted by Shiva, Nandikesvara became calm and free from anger and took up discrimination as the ultimate aim. After enlightening him and also his favorite Ganas, Shiva returned to his abode accompanied by his Ganas with great delight. Seething with fury and malice against Shiva, Daksha went to his abode along with the Brahmins. Remembering the situation in which Shiva had been cursed and still furious against him, Daksha of confounded intellect forsook his faith and entertained enmity and disgust against the worshippers of Shiva. Thus I have narrated the crooked intellect of Daksha in regard to Shiva the Great Self. O dear one, hear about his evil intention and thought. I shall tell you further. Chapter 27, The Inauguration of Daksa's Sacrifice. Brahma said. Once a great sacrifice was started by Daksha, O sage. To partake in that sacrifice, the celestial and terrestrial sages and devas were invited by Shiva and they reached the place being deluded by Shiva's Maya. Agastya, Kashyapa, Atri, Vamdeva, Bhargu, Dadichi, the revered Ivyasa, Bharadvaj, Gautama, Pala, Parasara, Garga, Bhargava, Kakubha, Siddhasumantu, Trika, Karika, Vaisampayana and many others along with their sons and wives arrived at the sacrifice of Daksha my son. All the devas, the guardians of the quarters of rising fortune, the subordinate devas with their offers of help and service attended the sacrifice. From Satyaloka, I, the creator of the universe, was duly lauded and taken there along with my sons, followers, and the embodied forms of the Vedas etc. Vishnu was duly requested, respected, and brought to the place of sacrifice from Vaikuntha along with his aide-de-camp and followers. Similarly others too, equally deluded, came to the sacrifice. Then Daksha, who was ill-disposed towards Shiva, received them hospitably. Large divine mansions of great value and brilliant luster were erected by Tvastar and assigned to them by Daksha. In all those places they stationed themselves in a befitting manner after being duly honored. They shone along with Vishnu and me. In that sacrifice that was being performed in that holy place of Kanakhala, O Bhargu and other sages were made. Vishnu himself was the presiding officer along with the Maruts. I was the Brahma, a special officiating deity, the director and guide for Vedic rituals. The guardians of the quarters became the gatekeepers and watchmen. They were well equipped in arms and had many attendants to assist them. They were very enthusiastic. In that altar, sacrifice itself was present in its beautiful embodied form. The excellent sages became the holders of the Vedas. The sacrificial fire evinced its diverse forms in 1,000 ways, during the sacrificial festivities, in order to receive the sacrificial offerings of Daksha. Performance of the sacrifice and 64,000 ajatras. The celestial sages Narad and others acted as Advaryas and Hotras. They too were as many. The 7 sages, jointly and severally repeated the Saman hymns. In his great sacrifice Daksha extended his invitation to Gandharvas, Vidyadharas, Siddhas, Adityas, all the innumerable Nagas along with their followers and sacrificial ritualists. Brahmanical, royal, and celestial sages, kings, with their friends, ministers, armies etc., Vasus and other chief Ganas Adavedas, all of them were invited by him in the sacrifice. With the proper initiation, tying of the holy thread round his wrist and Svastiyayana rites duly performed, Daksha along with his wife, shone well. Daksha, the evil-minded, did not invite Shiva for that sacrifice, deciding that he was not worthy of taking part in the sacrifice because he was a Kapalan. In view of the fact that Sati was the wife of Kapalan, she was not invited, though she was his beloved daughter, by Daksha, who was blind to her qualities. While the great festivities in the sacrifice of Daksha were being celebrated, those who had assembled for the same were engrossed in their respective activities. In the meantime, Dadicca, devotee of Shiva, realizing that Lord Shiva was not there, became dispirited and spoke thus. Dadicca said, "O ye all celestial sages and others, pay heed to my words. Why has not Shiva taken part in the festivities of this sacrifice? Of course, the chiefs of Devas, the great sages and the guardians of the quarters have all come. Yet the sacrifice cannot be perfect and complete without the noble-souled, trident-holder Shiva. The bull-bannered, blue-necked eternal Purusa, the great Isa, is not seen here. Great scholars have affirmed that all auspicious results happen due to him alone. O Daksa, if accepted by Triambaka, all inauspicious things become auspicious and fresh auspicious things take shape which will be greater than the greatest in a trice. Hence the invitation to the great Shiva shall be extended by you yourself immediately, or by Brahma, or by Vishnu the Lord. By all means Shiva shall be brought here by you along with Indra, the guardians of the quarters, the Brahmins, and the Siddhas, in order to make the sacrifice complete and perfect. All of you shall go where he is stationed immediately. Bring Shiva along with Sati. O lords of Devas, everything shall be sanctified through Shiva, the Supreme Self. If the consort of Shiva, the great being, comes here, everything will be all right. Since all merits accrue from thinking upon him and repeating his names, the bull-bannered deity shall be brought with all efforts. If Shiva comes here, the sacrifice will become sanctified, or it will remain incomplete and imperfect. I am telling you the truth." On hearing his words, the foolish and evil-minded Daksa became furious in a trice and said mockingly. Daksha said, "Vishnu, who is the prime cause of all deities and in whom the eternal virtue resides, has been invoked here by me. What is it that the sacrificial rite lacks in? Vishnu, in whom all the Vedas, sacrifices and the different rites are founded, has graced this place by his presence. Brahma, the grandfather of the worlds, has come here from Satyaloka along with the Vedas, Upanishads, and the Agamas. Similarly, the king of Devas himself has come along with all the Devas. You too, the sages free from sins, have come. Whoever is worthy of being included in the sacrifice and deserves honor has come. You all know the Vedic texts and their meanings. You all are steady in your rites. Of what avail is Shiva to us in this place? O Brahman, of course I have given my daughter to him, but that was because I was persuaded by Brahma. O Brahman, this Shiva is not a man of nobility. He has neither father nor mother. He is the lord of goblins, ghosts, and spirits, and is incorrigible. He is a haughty, self-conceited fool with false prestige and hostility. He is unworthy of this sacred rite. Hence he is not invited by me. Therefore you shall never make such statements as these henceforth. My great sacrifice has to be made fruitful by all of you. Brahma said. On hearing those words, Daddy Chi spoke aloud within the hearing of devas and sages. His words were pregnant with meaning. Daddy Chi said, "This sacrifice has become non-sacrifice without the presence of Shiva. Indeed, your destruction is imminent in this very sacrifice." Saying this, Daddy Chi walked out of the sacrifice of Daksha and immediately returned to his hermitage. Then some important devotees of Shiva who were initiated in the Saiva cult cursed Daksha and returned to their respective abodes. When the sage Daddy Chi and others staged a walkout, the evil-minded Daksha, inimical to Shiva, said mocking at them. Daksha said, "Gone is that Brahmin favorite of Shiva named Daddy Chi, and others too of his ilk have gone out of my sacrifice. This has become good. I approve of this always. O Indra, Devas, and sages, I am telling you the truth. They are slow-witted and senseless. They are rogues indulging in false deliberations and discussions. They are out of the Vedic circle. These men of evil conduct shall be eschewed from sacrificial rites. You all, Brahmins, sages and devas with Vishnu at the head shall make my sacrifice fruitful." Brahma said. On hearing these words, the celestial sages deluded by Shiva's Maya performed the worship of the deities in that sacrifice. O great sage, I have thus explained how the sacrifice had been cursed. Now I shall explain how the sacrifice was destroyed. Chapter 28, Sati's Journey. Brahma said. In the meantime, when the celestial sages were on their way to Daksha's sacrifice, with great eclat Sati the daughter of Daksha was engrossed in diverse sports, surrounded by her friends under the canopy of the fountain house on the mountain Gandhamadana. While she was thus gaily sportive, Sati saw the moon in the company of Rohini going to the sacrifice of Daksha. Sati asked Vijaya, her maiden-in-chief, her beloved friend, wishing her all welfare. Sati said, "O beloved friend Vijaya, where does this moon go now in a hurry in the company of Rohini after taking leave of us?" Brahma said. When Sati thus asked her, Vijaya went near the moon and asked him, "Where are you going?" On hearing what Vijaya said, the moon mentioned everything about the sacrificial festival of Daksha, with great respect. On hearing what the moon told her, Vijaya was greatly agitated and mentioned it immediately to goddess Sati. On hearing it, Sati, the goddess Kalika, was surprised. She thought over the possible reason, but not knowing it she mused like this. Daksha is my father. Virini is my mother. I am their beloved daughter Sati. Why did they not invite me? Have they forgotten their own beloved daughter? I shall ask Shiva respectfully the reason for the same. Thinking thus, she decided to go to him. Making her maiden-in-chief Vijaya wait there, Sati immediately went near Shiva. She saw him in the middle of the council chamber surrounded by hosts of his attendants Nandan and others of great valor. After seeing her husband, the Lord Shiva, the daughter of Daksha came near him quickly in order to ask him the reason. Lovingly Shiva took his beloved on his lap and delighted her with pleasing words. Then Shiva, the Lord of all, the bestower of happiness on the good, seated in the midst of his attendants told Sati, indulging, as usual, in his great divine sports. Shiva said, "O slender-waisted lady, why did you come here in the council chamber, and that too in a state of surprise? Please tell me the reason." Brahma continues the story. O great sages, Sati, on thus being addressed by Shiva, bowed to the Lord with palms joined in reverence and said, Sati said, I have heard that my father is performing a great sacrifice. Great festivities are being conducted there. The celestial sages have assembled to O Lord of Devas. How is it that a visit to my father's great sacrifice does not appeal to you? Please explain to me fully, O Lord. This is the duty of friends, that they shall frequently associate with their friends. O great Lord, friends always do what increases the pleasures of their friends. O Lord, please come to my father's sacrificial hall along with me. O Lord, let it be at my request. Brahma said. On hearing these words of Sati, Lord Shiva, wounded in the heart by the words of Daksha piercing like a dart, spoke these courteous and pleasing words. Lord Shiva said, Daksha is very well your father, dear. But he is my particular enemy. But the celestial sages who usually honor me have become confused now. Being devoid of true knowledge, they are attending the sacrifice of your father. O gentle lady, those who go to another man's house without being invited attain disrespect, which is more serious than even death. Even the prosperous Indra and people like him going to another man's house in such a context become worthless. What then about others? A journey of such a nature is futile. Hence you and I particularly shall not go to Daksa's sacrifice. O beloved, I have told you the truth. People wounded with arrows by enemies are not so pained as when their vulnerable points are hit by the taunting words of kinsmen. O beloved, the wicked people do not observe that their own status is being hit when they attack good men endowed with the 6 qualities of learning. Brahma said. Thus advised by the noble-souled Shiva, Sati was angry and spoke thus to Shiva, the foremost of fluent speakers. Sati said, O Shiva, Lord of all, you by whom sacrifice becomes fruitful have not been invited by my father, thus he has committed a foul deed. Hence, O Shiva, I wish to know the trend of thought of that evil-minded person as well as that of the celestial sages and all other wicked persons assembled there. Hence, O Lord, I wish to go to the sacrifice of my father. O Lord Shiva, please grant me permission to go there. Brahma said. Lord Shiva, possessed of the perfect vision, realizing everything and seeing all, and the cause of protection, being requested by the goddess, spoke to her. Shiva said, O goddess, if this is what you wish, if you think it needful to go, O righteous one, you can immediately start for your father's sacrifice with my willing permission. You can go in royal splendor mounting this bull richly caparisoned. Sati thus commanded to mount the decorated bull, bedecked herself and started for her father's abode. The royal paraphernalia like the umbrella, chaurais, silken clothes, and ornaments were given to her by Shiva, the great Lord. 60,000 of the attendants of Shiva lovingly and enthusiastically went with her with great festivities. The festivities performed by the attendants of Shiva to Sati, Shiva's beloved, were indeed very great. The heroic attendants, favorites of Shiva, sang songs of praise of Shiva and jumped in their joy with hearts of childish innocence. In every respect the departure of the Mother of the Universe was very glorious. The 3 worlds became filled with pleasing sounds. Chapter 29, Sati's Statement, Brahma said. Sati reached the place where the colorful sacrifice accompanied by the enthusiasm of Devas, Asuras, great sages etc. was in progress. She saw her father's mansion abounding in wondrous things lustrous and beautiful, as well as the groups of devas and sages. The goddess stopped at the gate and descended from Nandan, the bull. She went all alone inside the place of sacrifice. On seeing Sati, her glorious mother Asikni and her sisters received her respectfully. Even after seeing her, Daksha did not show any sign or gesture of love or respect. The others too, deluded by Shiva's Maya, did not receive her out of fear of Daksha. Sati then bowed to her parents, "O sage." In her surprise, at the cool reception, she gazed at everyone. In that sacrifice, Sati saw the shares allotted to the deities, Vishnu and others, but not to Shiva. She then fell into a great fury. Slighted thus and hence very furious at everyone, she directed her burning fiery look at Daksha and everyone present there. Sati said, "How is it that Shiva, who is highly auspicious and by whom the entire universe of the mobile and the immobile is sanctified, has not been invited by you? What is that sacrifice without Shiva, who is sacrifice himself, the performer of sacrifice, the fee of sacrifice, the adjunct of sacrifice and the foremost of those who know sacrifice itself? Every rite performed without him will be impure, but with him or by the mere remembrance of him becomes pure. The articles of offerings, the mantra, the havya and kavya, everything is identical with Shiva. How is it that the sacrifice is being performed without him? Did you disrespect him, considering him on a par with ordinary devas? You have become senseless and mean, though you are my father. Ha! You do not know Shiva, the great Lord, by serving whom Vishnu, Brahma, and other devas have attained their position and status. How did Vishnu, Brahma, other devas, and the sages happen to be present at your sacrifice without their Lord Shiva?" Brahma said. After saying this, Sati addressed Vishnu and others severally, taunting them. Sati said, "O Vishnu, don't you know the real nature of Shiva, whom the Vedas speak of as both full or devoid of attributes? Although as the chieftain of King Salva, Shiva had caught hold of your hand and set you aright many a time, that admonition has not entered your brain, now that you have evinced a desire to partake of your share in Daksha's sacrifice without inviting Lord Shiva. O Brahma, you had 5 faces formerly. When you exhibited your haughtiness against Shiva, he made you 4-faced. It is surprising that you have forgotten it. O Indra, don't you know the valor of the great Lord? Shiva had once ruthlessly reduced your thunderbolt to ashes. O Devas, don't you know the valor of Mahadeva? O Atri, O Vasistha, O sages, what have you all done here? Once the Lord wandered, begging for alms, in Dharavana. You, sages, cursed him in the guise of a mendicant. How is it that you have now forgotten what Shiva did on being cursed by you? The entire universe of the mobile and immobile was burnt by his linga. All of you, Vishnu, Brahma, gods, sages and others have turned foolish since you have assembled here without Shiva. Shiva of controlled speech, knowable only through self-realization, cannot be understood by anyone with the help of only Vedas with their ancillary adjuncts and other sacred texts. Brahma said. Thus the infuriated Sati, the mother of the universe, spoke many words with her heart in distress. Vishnu, gods, and sages kept silent on hearing her words, though their minds were distressed on account of Shiva. But Daksha, on hearing those words of his daughter, looked at Sati cruelly and said thus to her. Daksha said, "Gentle lady, nothing shall be gained by your speaking so much here. You can go or stay. Why at all did you come? Your husband Shiva is known to the wise as inauspicious. He is not of a noble lineage. He is the king of goblins, ghosts, and spirits. He is excluded from Vedic rites. Knowing Shiva to be of indecent dress and features, my dear daughter, I did not invite him to the sacrifice in the presence of gods and sages. Induced by Brahma gave you in marriage to the wicked haughty Shiva who does not know customs. I have been a sinner and slow-witted. Hence leave off your anger. Calm yourself. Let us see, you smile sweetly. Having come, all the way, to this sacrifice you can take your own share. Brahma said. The daughter Sati, honored in the three worlds, on being addressed thus, became very angry to see her father full of contempt. She mused to herself, how can I return to Shiva? Of course I am desirous of seeing Shiva, but what reply shall I give when he were to ask me? Sati, the mother of the three worlds, heaving sighs of wrath, told her father Daksha, the evil-minded. Sati said, he who reproaches Shiva and he who hears such reproaches, both of them go hell and stay there as long as the moon and the sun exist. Hence I shall cast off my body and enter the fire. O Father, of what avail is this life unto me, who am unfortunate enough to hear contemptuous remarks about my Lord? If a powerful person cuts off the tongue of the man who makes such disrespectful remarks about Shiva, both of them will be absolved of sins. If he is not powerful enough, let the sensible man close his ears and quit the place, he shall then be pure, so say the learned persons. Brahma said. After stating the dictum of virtue thus, she remembered the advice of Shiva and repented her hasty arrival, with a grief-stricken heart. Then, inciting the fury of Daksha further, she said to Vishnu and all other devas and sages unhesitatingly. Sati said, Dear father, hating Shiva now, you are sure to repent later. After experiencing a lot of agony here, you are sure to experience further torture. Excepting you, can there be a person who is adversely inclined and disposed towards Shiva, who is free from inimical feelings, who is the great self, and who does not hate or love anyone in the world? Contempt of the great is infused with rivalry in the bad people, but in regard to those whose tamasika quality is quelled by the dust of the feet of the great, it is auspicious. The syllables si and va, even uttered once casually, can quell all sins. It is surprising that you are so wicked as to harbor ill feelings against Shiva, who is the Lord of all, whose dictum is untransgressible, and who is the holiest of the holy. You are certainly enemy of Shiva. It is a pity that out of foolishness you hold malice towards Shiva, the benefactor of everyone, whose lotus-like feet are always resorted to by the bees in the form of the minds of lofty-natured persons, who confers all blessings, even that of realizing the self. Have the scholarly persons, Brahma and others, Sanaka and sages, except you, considered Shiva unholy? Shiva, who holds the skull in his hands, resides in the cremation ground in the company of goblins. He wears matted hair. But sages and devas keep on their heads the dust from his feet. Such is the nature of Lord Shiva, the great God. In the Vedas, two sorts of actions are ordained: direct and renunciatory. Scholars differentiate between these two and hold that they cannot be simultaneous and they cannot occur in a single entity. But in Shiva, the great Brahman, these actions do not have any effect. Let us not take to your path of egoism as displayed in your sacrificial chambers, enjoyed and cast off by the fire. Ours is the manifest path followed by Avadyatas. O Father, with a crooked mind you need not be haughty and conceited. Why say more? You are wicked in every respect. You are evil-minded. I have nothing further to do with this body born of you. Fie upon him who is always wicked and who perpetrates actions of unspeakable demerit. Sensible man should shun even the contact with such a man. I am the offspring of your race, as the bull-bannered Lord Shiva has often said. Hence naturally my name has come to be Dakshayani. This is distressing to me. This body born of your limbs I shall cast off as a corpse. It is worthy of contempt. I shall abandon it and gain happiness. O sages and devas, you listen to my words. Your action is improper in every respect. You have become evil-minded. You are deluded. You revel in reproaching Shiva and quarreling with him. Every one of you will get due punishment from Shiva. Brahma said. Having said thus to Daksha and others present in the sacrifice, Sati stopped. After thinking upon her dear Lord, she desisted from her speech. Chapter 30, Description of Sati's casting off of her body and the subsequent disorder. Narad said. When Sati, Shiva's beloved, became silent, what happened there? O Brahma, please tell me. Brahma said. Observing silence and remembering her lord with great respect, Sati the goddess calmed down and sat on the ground in the northern wing. Having sipped water duly, covering up her body entirely with her cloth, she closed her eyes and remembered her lord. She then entered the yogic trance. Keeping her face steady, she balanced the wind, prana, and apana. She then lifted up the wind udana from the umbilical region, stabilized it in the cardiac region, took it through the throat, and finally fixed it in the middle of the eyebrows. She desired to cast off her body due to her anger with Daksha. She desired to burn off the body and retain the pure wind by yogic means. In this posture she remembered the feet of her lord and nothing else. Her body, divested of its sins, fell in the yogic fire and was reduced to ashes, O excellent sage, in accordance with her own wish. The loud shouts and cries of ha, ha of those who witnessed it spread everywhere on the earth and rose up in the sky. Everything was surprisingly wonderful and terrifying to the devas and others. Alas, Shiva's beloved goddess, nay his deity, Sati has cast off her life. Who is that wicked person who angered her? See the unholy, unspiritual misdeed of Daksha the patriarch, the son of Brahma, whose subjects are the mobile and immobile creatures of the world. Alas, Sati, the noble beloved of the bull-bannered deity, has become dispirited. She ought to have been honored duly. This patriarch of hardened heart, inimical to the Brahman, will definitely become infamous in the whole world. Since he refused to comply with the request of his own daughter, he will be falling into a terrible hell after death due to his own guilt. When people were saying thus on seeing the self-immolation of Sati, her attendants rose up in anger with their weapons. They had been waiting near the door, numbering 60,000. Those powerful attendants of Lord Shiva became furious. Those attendants of Shiva shouted exclamations ha ha, fi, fi, no, no, loudly and frequently. The quarters were pervaded with the shouts of ha, ha. The devas and sages who had assembled there were struck with fear. Consulting one another, the attendants lifted their weapons furiously, and the atmosphere was pervaded with the sound of their arms. O celestial sage, some of them excessively stricken with grief cut off their limbs with their weapons, some their heads, some their faces, with the sharp lethal weapons they had. Thus about 20,000 of those attendants courted death along with Sati. It was very surprising. Such of the attendants of the noble-souled Shiva who survived, jumped up with their weapons to kill the furious Daksha. On seeing the force of their onslaught, O sages, the holy sage Bharga poured offering in the Daksha's fire with the Ajur mantra to quell the obstructors of sacrifice. While the sage Bharga was pouring the offerings, thousands of powerful demons thus rose up. O excellent sage, a terrible fight ensued between Shiva's attendants and the demons who had firebrands for their weapons. Their hair stood on end when people heard the uproar. The attendants were killed by the Rabhus of powerful valor and favored with Brahmanical splendor. They were forced to run without difficulty. It had been the desire of Shiva of the great Shakti that the attendants were killed and routed quickly. It was a wonderful scene. On seeing this, the sages, Indra and other devas, the Maruts, the Visvidevas, the Asvins, and the guardians of the quarters kept silent. Some of them went to request and consult with Vishnu frequently for preventing obstacles. They were greatly agitated. The sensible devas, Vishnu, and others, became agitated on pondering over the results of Pramatha's destruction and routing. Such was the obstacle to the sacrifice of Daksha, who rivaled with Shiva, who was wicked and who professed to be a kinsman of Brahma, O sage. Chapter 31, The Celestial Voice. Brahma said, O excellent sage, in the meantime a celestial voice arose, even as Daksha, the devas, and others were listening. The celestial voice said, O Daksha, of evil conduct, of haughty disposition, what is it that you have foolishly done now, this misdeed bringing in many an unhappy calamity in its wake? You never gave any credence to the words of Dadichi, the king of devotees of Shiva. O fool, if it had been carried out, everything would have been auspicious and pleasing. After cursing you terribly, the Brahmin had walked out of the sacrificial hall in protest. Still you did not understand anything, fool that you were. How is it that you did not honor Sati your daughter, the auspicious lady who herself came to your house? O you weak in knowledge, how is it that you did not worship Sati and Shiva? In vain do you feel proud of being Brahma's son. You are actually deluded. That Sati alone, who quells all sins, who is the mother of three worlds, who has occupied half the body of Shiva and who confers all welfare, should be propitiated always. That Sati alone when worshipped forever confers good fortunes. She is the great goddess who bestows everything auspicious on her devotees. That Sati alone when propitiated forever destroys the fear from worldly existence. She is the goddess who confers what we desire and who removes all disorders. That Sati alone when propitiated forever bestows fame and wealth. She is the great goddess who confers worldly pleasures and salvation. That Sati alone is the creator of the universe, the protectress of the universe, the cause of destruction of the universe at the end of the Kalpa. She is the primordial Shakti. That Sati alone is the Maya of the universe, the mother of Vishnu, of diverse shining features, and the mother of Brahma, Indra, the moon, the fire, the sun, and the devas. That Sati alone is the bestower of the fruits of penance, charitable gifts, and virtuous actions. She is the Shakti of Shiva, the great goddess, the destroyer of the wicked and the greatest of the great. The due share has not been offered by you who are foolish and evil-minded to the Lord, whose ever-beloved wife is the goddess Sati of such glorious features. Shiva indeed is the great Lord, the Lord of all, the greatest of the great, worthy of being served by Vishnu, Brahma, and others, and the cause of all welfare. Penances are performed by the siddhas who desire to have a vision of him. Yogic meditations and exercises are performed by yogins who desire to have a vision of him. Vision of Shiva yields great fruits, endless wealth, and food grains, and the fructification of all sacrifices. Shiva alone is the creator of the universe, the Lord of all lords, the upholder of the primordial learning, and the Lord, the most auspicious of the auspicious. Since you have not duly respected his Shakti, and since you are wicked, this sacrifice will definitely be destroyed. Inauspicious results befall one when those worthy of worship are not worshipped, and they are quelled when they are worshipped, since Shiva is the worthiest of all worship. That Shakti is Shiva, Sati, the dust from whose feet is worn every day by Sesa with his 1,000 heads. Sati is the beloved of Shiva, by meditating upon whose lotus-like feet forever, and by worshipping which Vishnu attained his Vishnuhood. Sati is the beloved of Shiva, by meditating upon whose lotus-like feet forever, and by worshipping which, Brahma attained his Brahmahood. Shiva is the Lord, by meditating upon whose lotus-like feet forever, and by worshipping which the guardians of quarters Indra and others attain their respective positions. Shiva is the father of the universe. That Sati is the mother of the universe. O fool, they were not honored duly by you. How can you attain welfare? Since Sati and Shiva are not propitiated by you, misfortune has befallen you. Miseries have attacked you. Do you feel proud enough to suppose that you can attain welfare without worshipping Shiva? That haughty pride will be quashed today. I do not see anyone among these devas who will come to your assistance, since you are averse to the Lord. If the devas were to come to your assistance, they are sure to be destroyed like moths by fire. Let your face burn. Let your sacrifice be quashed. Whoever comes as your assistant, let him be burnt today immediately. An oath on all the devas for your inauspiciousness, if they are to assist your wickedness. Let all the devas depart quickly from this sacrificial altar. Otherwise you all will perish today without an escape. Let all the sages, nagas, and others leave this sacrifice. Otherwise, you all will perish today, without an escape. O Vishnu, come out of this sacrificial platform quickly. Otherwise you will perish today without an escape. O Brahma, come out of this sacrificial platform quickly. Otherwise you will perish today, by all means. Brahma said. After saying this to those who had gathered in the sacrificial hall, the celestial voice that conferred welfare stopped. O dear one, on hearing the astral voice, Vishnu and other devas were surprised. The sages too were wonderstruck. Chapter 32, Virabhadra is born and Shiva advises him, Narad said. On hearing the ethereal voice, what did the unwise Daksha do? What did the others do? What happened thereafter? Please narrate. O intelligent one, please tell me what those attendants of Shiva who were defeated by the power of Bhargo's mantras did and where they went. Brahma said. On hearing the voice of the sky, the devas and others were stunned with surprise. They did not say anything. They stood perplexed and dazed. The remaining attendants of Shiva who were defeated and routed by the power of Bhargo's mantras fled and sought refuge in Shiva. Bowing with great respect to Shiva of immeasurable splendor, they narrated everything that transpired there. Ganesh said, O Lord of Devas, save us who have sought refuge in you. Please listen with condescension to the detailed description of the events connected with Sati. O Lord, great disrespect was shown to Sati by the haughty and wicked Daksha. The Devas too did not show due respect to her. He did not allot your share but gave it to all the Devas. The extremely haughty Daksha wickedly and loudly spoke harsh words. O Lord, not seeing your share in the sacrifice, Sati became angry. After censuring her father many times, she burnt her body in the yogic fire. Ganas exceeding 10,000 put an end to their lives out of shame by cutting off their limbs with weapons. We, the rest, became infuriated. Assuming a terrifying attitude, we suddenly got ready to destroy the sacrifice. But we were repelled by Bhairgava by means of his spiritual power. He opposed us. O Lord, the sustainer of the world, we have now sought refuge in you. We are now grieved and fear-stricken. Please make us free from fear. O great Lord, Daksha and the other wicked persons have shown great disrespect because they are very haughty. O bestower of honor, we have told you all that happened to us and to Sati. Please deal with those deluded fools in the manner you deem fit. Brahma said. On hearing the words of his attendants, the Lord remembered you, Narad, in order to know their activities. O celestial sage, endowed with divine vision, you reached the place, and after bowing to Shiva with devotion you waited there with palms joined in reverence. After praising you, the Lord asked you about Sati's news at the sacrifice of Daksha and the incidents there. O dear, when you were thus asked by Shiva, you identified with Shiva and narrated to him in detail about what had happened in Daksha's sacrifice. O sage, on hearing the words spoken by you, Shiva became furious in a trice, Shiva of great fury and valor. Then Rudra, the destroyer of the world, plucked out a cluster of his matted hair and struck the top of the mountain with it. O sage, the cluster of the matted hair of the Lord split into two, on being struck on the mountain. A loud explosive sound was heard which was as terrific as the sound at the time of dissolution. O celestial sage, from the first half of that cluster of matted hair, rose up the powerful Virabhadra, the Tarifi leader of the Ganas. He stood lofty with 2,000 hands blazing like the consuming fire. He enveloped the world all round and towered over it 10 inches more. From the furious breath of Shiva, the great Rudra, 100 fevers and 13 humors came out. From the other half of the cluster of matted hair Mahakali was born. O dear one, she was very terrible and was surrounded by crores of goblins. The ruthless fevers had embodied forms. They were capable of terrifying the world. They were blazing with their fiery splendor. Then the heroic Virabhadra, eloquent in speech, joined his palms in reverence and bowed to Lord Shiva. Virabhadra said thus. Virabhadra said, O Rudra of terrific appearance, with the moon, the sun, and the fire for your eyes, what am I to do? O Lord, command me quickly. O Shiva, are the oceans to be dried up in half a moment? O Shiva, are the mountains to be ground into powder in half a moment? O Shiva, shall I reduce the whole universe to ashes in a moment? Shall I reduce the gods or the sages to ashes in a moment? O Shiva, shall the destruction of the universe be carried out? Or, O Shiva, shall the harassment of all living beings be carried out? O Lord Shiva, thanks to your favor there is nothing impossible for me. A person equal to me in valor has not been born, nor will he be born. O Lord, wherever you send me and on whatever errand, I shall execute that job quickly and earn your favor. At your bidding, O Shiva, even worthless persons swim across the ocean of the world. O Shiva, am I not therefore competent to cross the ocean of great adversity? O Shiva, there is no doubt in this that even the blade of grass dispatched by you will achieve great tasks without difficulty in a moment. O Shiva, verily any task can be fulfilled by your mere sport. But it is your blessing and favor, that I shall be sent to do the job. It is by your blessing that I am qualified in this task. O Shiva, without your blessing and favor none will have that power and efficiency. This is true. There is no doubt in this that without your command and permission no one shall move even a blade of grass. O Shiva, Devas, and others are subject to your control. I too am subject to the control exercised by you. I am the controller of all living beings. O Shiva, I have knelt before you. Again and again I kneel before you. O Shiva, send me immediately for the fulfillment of your desire. O Shiva, my right limbs throb frequently. I am sure to be victorious today. O Lord, so please send me. I feel a peculiar exhilaration and zeal. O Shiva, my mind sticks to your lotus-like feet. At every step a series of auspicious things and events have occurred. Surely he alone is victorious forever, his alone is the welfare every day who, O Shiva, is firmly devoted to you who are the resort of everything auspicious. Brahma said. On hearing these words of Virabhadra, the consort of Sati became glad. He blessed him saying, O Virabhadra, be victorious, and said these words. Thereafter Lord Shiva said, O dear Virabhadra, listen to my words attentively. You must carry them out quickly. It will then delight me. Daksha, the wicked son of Brahma, has made arrangement to perform a sacrifice. He is particularly inimical to me. He is unwise and conceited now. O best of Ganas, destroy the sacrifice with all the ancillary adjuncts and then return to my abode quickly. Even if there be Devas, Gandharvas, Yaksas, or others, reduce them also to ashes quickly. Let there be Vishnu, Brahma, Indra or Yama. Fell them to the ground now itself with strenuous efforts. Transgressing the imprecations of Dadichi, whoever stays in the sacrifice shall be burnt by you, of course. If Vishnu and others, out of erroneous notions, were to withstand, other Ganas will come for your help. They shall be burnt by you after dragging them with mantras. Transgressing my injunctions, many haughty persons are lingering there. They are also my enemies. So burn them with a series of blazing fire, after reducing them to ashes, along with their wives, and all the paraphernalia at the sacrifice of Daksha, you shall return quickly. It is possible that when you go there, Devas and others may praise you. Still you shall burn them in the flames. Burn the Devas too who have committed offense, in the blazing fire, after meditating on me, your protector. After burning Daksha and all others along with their wives and kinsmen, without any effort, in a playful manner you shall drink waters. Brahma said. After saying thus to Virabhadra, the great hero, Shiva, the Lord of all, the slayer of Kala, the protector of Vedic conventions, stopped, with his eyes still resembling copper, due to anger. Chapter 33, The March of Virabhadra. Brahma said. On hearing these words of Lord Shiva with great respect, Virabhadra was highly delighted. He bowed to him. Receiving his command, with his head bowed down in reverence, Virabhadra set off immediately to the place of sacrifice. To add luster to the campaign, Shiva sent crores of Ganas, very valorous and equal to the fire of dissolution. Those powerful Ganas enthusiastic and gay both preceded and followed Virabhadra. All the personal attendants of Kala Kala assuming the form of Rudra accompanied Virabhadra in their hundreds and thousands. Accompanied by these Ganas, the noble-souled Virabhadra who had the same dress, features, and embellishments as Shiva went ahead in a chariot. He had 1,000 arms each like hoods of the serpent king. He was powerful and terrifying. The chariots numbered as many as 2,000 nalvas of land could contain. 10,000 lions pulled the chariots strenuously. Many strong lions, tigers, crocodiles, huge fishes, and thousands of elephants constituted his bodyguard. When Virabhadra set off quickly for slaying Daksha, a shower of flowers fell there let loose by the divine Kalpa tree. During the festivities of their march, the Ganas eulogized the heroic Virabhadra who was carrying out the job of Shiva and they exhibited their enthusiasm. Mahakali went ahead for the destruction of Daksha accompanied by 9 Durgas viz Kali, Katyayani, Isani, Chamunda, Munda Mardini, Bhadrakali, Bhadrativarada, and Vaisnavi and the goblins. Eager in executing the command of Shiva, they accompanied the marching heroes Okanai, Sakini, Buddhas, Pramathas, Goyakas, Kusmandas, Parpatas, Chatakas, Brahmaraksasas, Bhairavas, and Kshetrapalas and set out quickly for the destruction of Daksha's sacrifice. The host of yoginis with their 64 groups set out angrily and hurriedly to destroy Daksha's sacrifice. O Narad, listen to the numerical strength of the most important and courageous of those groups. The chief of Gana Sankhyakarna went ahead with 10 crores of his attendants, Kakarake with 10 crores and Vikrita with 8 crores. Visakha with 64 crores, Parayatrika with 9 crores, Sarvankaka and the heroic Vikritanana each with 6 crores. The chief of Ganas, Javalaksa went with 12 crores, Jaiman with 7 crores and Dudrabha with 8 crores. Kapalisa with 5 crores and the Sandarika group with 6 crores, Kodakunda with crores of crores. Vistamha, the most excellent of the Ganas, went with 64 crores of heroes. Odir, Sunata, and Pipala went with 1,000 crores. Avasana went with 8 crores and Kandratapana too with 8 crores. Mahavesa, the chief of Ganas, was accompanied by 1,000 crores. O sage, Kundi the most excellent of the Ganas and Pavataka went each with 12 crores in order to destroy Daksha's sacrifice. Kala, Kalaka, and Mahakala went to the sacrifice of Daksha with 100 crores. Agnikrite with 100 crores, Agnamukha with 1 crore, Adityamartha and Ganavaha each with 1 crore. Sanaha with 100 crores, Kumuda with 1 crore, Amaga and Kokila the chief of Ganas each with 1 crore of crores. Kasthagadha, Sukizi, Vrsabha, and Sumantrika the chief of Ganas, Odir, each went with 64 crores. Kakapadadara and Santanaka both excellent chiefs of Ganas went with 60 crores each. Mahabala as well as Purigava went with 9 crores each. Odir, the chief of Ganas, Madhyapuriga was the leader of 90 crores. Purnabhadra also started with as many attendants. Shatarvaktra, the chief of Ganas, started with 100 crores. Virapaksa, the lord of Ganas, with 64 crores. So also the chiefs of Ganas, Taketu, Sadasia, and Pancasia. O sage, Saralvartaka, Kolasa, Svayamprabhu, Lokantaka, Diptitma, Datyantaka, Vidarajiratai, Devadivapraya, Asani, and Balaka each went with 64,000 Ganas. Thus at the bidding of Shiva, the heroic Virabhadra went ahead followed by crores and crores, thousands and thousands, hundreds and hundreds of Ganas. The hero was accompanied by thousands of crores of goblins, and 3 crores of canine species born of the hair of Shiva. He went ahead quickly. Trumpets and drums sounded loudly. Conchs blew in diverse ways. Horns of all kinds were blown. In that joyous festivity various musical instruments were played in a pleasing manner. While the march of Virabhadra was in progress, O great sage, many pleasing fortuitous omens occurred. Chapter 34, The Devas witness had omens at the place of sacrifice. Brahma said. When Virabhadra set off thus, bad omens were seen by Daksha and the Devas. O celestial sage, when Virabhadra accompanied by the Ganas proceeded thus, many portentous phenomena occurred at the sacrifice of Daksha including the 3 evil omens, boding the imminent destruction of Daksha's sacrifice. The left eye, arm, and thigh of Daksha throbbed. In every respect, it indicated everything inauspicious it was harassing to him. There was an earthquake at the site of sacrifice. Daksha observed the mysterious phenomena of stars at noon. The quarters became dirty and gloomy. The sun appeared spotted and terrifying with thousands of circlets all round. Stars, brilliant like lightning and blazing fire were seen falling. Some of them went zigzag and some fell with face downwards. Thousands of vultures hovered above touching Daksha's head. Shadows of these darkened the sacrificial platform. Jackals howled in the surroundings of the sacrificial ground. The evil star Netrika and meteors seemed to fall like white scorpions. Rough winds raising a lot of dust blew there. Locusts and moths were tossed about by whirlwinds. The wonderfully new sacrificial platform erected by Daksha and the Devas was thrown up by the wind. Surprisingly enough, Daksha and others vomited blood, pieces of flesh and bones very frequently. They became unsteady and tremulous like lamps blown by wind. They felt miserable as if struck with the sharp edges of weapons. The eyes of Daksha and others sometimes resembled the fading lotuses of the summer, sometimes they resembled the flowers in forests with dews trickling from them, sometimes they seemed like lotuses at night and sometimes like cumuta flowers in the forenoon. The deities seemed to shower blood, the quarters became enveloped in darkness, there was a peculiar blaze everywhere terrifying all. O sage, Devas, and others saw such evil portents as these. Vishnu and others were struck with great fear. Ha! We are doomed, saying thus they fell unconscious on the ground like trees on the edges of rivers when felled by the force of the current. Fallen on the ground they remained motionless like cruel serpents struck dead. Sometimes those fallen bounced up like balls. Then due to extreme distress they cried like twittering sparrows. Their groans and their voices got confusingly mingled with each other. Everyone including Vishnu had their power blunted and impeded. They rolled and dashed against one another like tortoises. In the meantime a disembodied voice arose there within the hearing of the Devas and that of Daksha particularly. The ethereal voice said, "Fie upon your life now, O Daksha! You are evil-minded and excessively foolish. Great misery caused by Shiva will inevitably befall you. Certainly great misery will befall those foolish devas and others who are here crying out ha ha. Brahma said. On hearing that voice of the sky, and seeing those ill omens, Daksha was terribly afraid. The others devas etc. too followed suit. Trembling miserably and utterly shaken, Daksha sought refuge in Vishnu, the consort of Lakshmi and his own lord. Making humble obeisance in his fright, and eulogizing in his mental distress, he said thus to Vishnu endearing to his own men.